Harvey, host of Franchising Brand Stories.
Hello, my name's John Davies. I'm the UK Managing Director for FASTSIGNS.
And welcome to Franchising Brand Stories. This is the show where we get under the hat of some of the top brands in the UK and in the world. And Franchising Brand Stories is brought to you by FranRec, the specialist staff and executive recruiters to the UK franchise industry. So this show is for you if you are a prospective franchisee. If you are looking to invest in a business, this is the show for you. We are going to find out what's beyond the brochure and what's behind the brand. And in doing that, we're going to meet some of the wonderful people that are in these organizations. And the brand story we're going to hear today is FASTSIGNS with the wonderful John Davies. John, welcome to Franchising Brand Stories.
Thank you very much indeed, Harvey.
Great. Well, it's fantastic to have you here. Let's kick things off with asking you, what is FASTSIGNS? I mean, it's a fundamental question. And if you're a potential franchisee listening in, it's good to understand exactly what the business is about.
Okay, thank you. So FASTSIGNS is a signs, graphics and visual communication specialist business. We have 774 franchise locations operating currently in 9 countries. The franchise originated in Dallas, Texas in 1985. The founder is a gentleman called Gary Solomon. He was in the printing space, and the story has it that he visited a print shop and he saw the first introduction, which would have been first generation digital print, which went straight onto some form of substrate that wasn't a paper, and it was his eureka moment. So he thought, wow, this technology is amazing. It's going to revolutionize the world and sort of take over the industry. From there, having had that idea, he looked for a way to accelerate the growth of his business. In America, as you all know, Harvey, franchising is a very well-established, advanced business model. It's incredibly well known. In fact, there are more businesses that are assumed to be franchised than not in the US. So he thought, okay, let's look at franchising. Got some really good franchisees signed up early doors. Got some very rapid growth. Kind of got the business to a point where he thought, that's my capabilities and my capacity for growth, and sold the business to what we would know as private equity, who then have gone on various generations of private equity ownership. And we've obviously got now senior executives who run the business. In the US, Canada, and the UK, we are owned by the FASTSIGNS International Inc. Corporation. So I'm an employee of an American business. In the other 6 countries that we operate under a master license arrangement. So FASTSIGNS grants the rights and gives the training and gives the model, but there are other locals native of that country that implement the model. So
fantastic. I mean, that's great for people to understand, what the business is and, where it had its beginnings there. In terms of the UK, where can you be found, and how many franchisees have you got here in the UK?
So our support office is based in Staffordshire, a nice central location to be able to get to most parts of the UK within a decent travelling time. Our furthest north franchise would be York, and our furthest south would probably be something like Portsmouth. We go all the way along to Tunbridge Wells. We've got a concentration of locations in the London area, and then we have currently 23 locations spread out between those triangulated points. We're sort of focused on major cities. Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham, London, as you would expect, we've got a good presence within, but most locations where a major business where education facilities, where healthcare facilities are located, they usually have the number of business concentration and the demographic requirements to be a viable market for our franchise model.
Fantastic. Let's just say hello to somebody who's joined us here live today. It's David Moffat. Great to have you here with us, David. David's from Beauparan, and he's going to be launching Coles Junior here in the UK. So fantastic to have you with us, David. If you have just joined us, this is Franchising Brand Stories, and today we are going to be hearing the brand story of FASTSIGNS, and we've got John Davies with us. And Franchising Brand Stories is brought to you by FranRec, specialist staff and executive recruiters to the UK franchise industry. So this is where we're going to enter the sort of the main part of our story here, John, and I'm going to be taking you back in time in a moment. But this is also the part of the story where we encourage, if you are here live, to ask a question or two, find out what you would like to know, because we have a wonderful John here who can answer those questions for you. So let's do that right now. Let's take you back in time. You've given us a little bit of the story of how FASTSIGNS itself began, but where did it begin for you and FASTSIGNS here in the UK? What was that story?
So Harvey, I'm going to take you slightly further back than FASTSIGNS, because I want to just give you a little bit of an outline of how I got into franchising. Like most people, I got into franchising purely by accident. I was a supplier to a business. It was a retail business. I used to work for a manufacturing and distribution business, and the owners of the retail business, they had 2 outlets at the time. And they liked the role that I'd performed for their business over a period of time. And they said, why don't you come and join us? Why don't you look after our franchising division? We're going to grow throughout the UK and open a number of franchises. And I said, but I don't know anything about franchising. I never really heard about it. So how can I do that? And they said, don't worry, we'll learn it as we go along. So I joined that retail business. I was there for nearly 12 years. I left, we had 175 outlets, 45 of them were franchised. I was responsible for those 45. I owned 2 of the 45. So in partnership with my brother, I was a franchisee and a franchisor at the same time. And we sold it ultimately to private equity, and they had some very ambitious plans. And I just thought, a career is probably a job that's gone on too long, so I should go and do something new. So I left franchising, and I had about 18 months working for different businesses, did some projects, and I got a phone call from a recruiter. On this occasion, it wasn't FranRec, but I have worked with FranRec several times before. Some of my high quality support team have been recruited by Simon, so I can heartily recommend his services and the facility that he offers to the industry. But I got a job, an offer to go to Dallas for a week-long job interview. And I thought, wow, well, I've never been asked to do that before. So I headed over to Dallas, Texas. And what I discovered was a world-class franchise business. It absolutely blew my socks off. I thought to myself, well, I didn't do a bad job for the 11 or 12 years I did it before, but this is how the professionals do it. And I actually thought to myself, if I can come back to the UK and replicate this model in a very average fashion, I'll be doing a pretty good job, because the brand was very, very strong. All of their systems were advanced. I mean, they've been doing it for nearly 40 years now. So a lot of the things that I thought I'd created were obviously established practices within the model. So I thought, this is out of this world, and then joined in 2015. So this is my 10th year with the business. And when I was in franchising before, I wasn't actively involved in the franchise community. We were a franchise, and we were ethical. We had a franchise agreement by an ethical lawyer who made our business sustainable, and it was worthy of representation. But obviously with FASTSIGNS, everything is as you would expect. We are members of the British Franchise Association. So I thought to myself, I need to embrace and get involved in the franchising community. And during the last nearly 10 years, I've found it to be a fantastic, supportive industry. Some great business models in there, some really, really, really high delivery brands that we operate alongside. And we like to think that we sit amongst them. I mean, we've just come back, as you will know, in November. It's the British Franchise Association Awards, and we were grateful and very honoured to be shortlisted for one of their awards. It was the Leadership and Culture Award this year. We didn't win the category, but when you don't win and one of the brands on stage that does win, you admire and you take your hat off to, if you excuse the pun. That was a great victory for us. So that's kind of like how I got into franchising, and then how I ended up being in FASTSIGNS. And I have to say, every day is different. I've never looked back. So long may it continue.
Fantastic. What a great story. And the fact that you've been a franchisee as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so important. If you're a potential franchisee listening in today and hearing your story, to know that your history and your story and the fact that you've been a franchisee is so important for someone, because you understand what they're going to be going through, having come from a background of being a franchisee.
Harvey, let me tell you one thing. When I joined FASTSIGNS, they had 4 key strategic objectives. They were all directly focused at the franchisee. So it was to improve franchisee sales, improve franchisee profitability, improve the value and the reach of the FASTSIGNS brand, and to improve franchisee satisfaction. They were also focused into the franchise. And our CEO, Catherine Monson, said, if the franchisee isn't successful, then neither are we. Our success is on the back of a franchisee's success. We put them at the very center of our business. And that was really refreshing to me, because in my previous franchise experience, it was the opposite of that. It was how much money can we make out of franchising. So I'm very fortunate to work for an organization that mirrors my view of franchising. Let's support our franchisees. Let's make them as successful as we possibly can. And on the back of that, that makes our brand and our business successful also.
Absolutely. I mean, somebody once said to me, in fact, I'll say who it was John Hewitt, and he had been in franchising 50 years. And he said that it's really simple. All you need is successful and happy franchisees to be a successful business, and to know that franchisees are at the core of your business, that you know that their success, their happiness is something that goes hand in hand with the success of everyone within the business, I think is a really, really important thing to hear. We've got a comment that's come up here, so I think this is a worthwhile to put on the screen here. This is a comment from Simon Wise, and he's put, what skills and experience do you look for in a FASTSIGNS franchisee? I mean, this is really, really valid, because if you are a franchisee listening here today, you're thinking, am I going to be a fit? Should I make that inquiry? Who do you sort of look for, and what skills and experiences are relevant?
Well, the first thing I would say is we don't have a typical franchisee. So within our network today, we've got an ex-sales and marketing director. We've got an ex-investment banker. We've got an ex-landscape gardener. We've got a lady that used to work in special needs education. We've got people that worked in retail and the hospitality industry. So there's no typical franchisee, but they have common characteristics, and they do have some common skill sets. So one, I would say, is the ability to manage and motivate a team. The key, one of the key successes, one of the key strengths of the FASTSIGNS business model and any franchise is they're only as good as their team. So we invest heavily in training staff, and making sure they've got the skills to be able to do their role. But as a franchisee, you need to be able to manage and motivate a team of people. You've got to like a bit of project management, because you go out and visit a client and understand their needs. You then need to interpret that into a solution. So we don't sell products. we sell solutions. So a little bit of that can be involved in working with different departments, different skills, different outsource agencies to bring it all together to meet the customer's needs. Some of our franchisees have a high level of interest in design or creativity. That never goes amiss. It's not actually a requirement, but it certainly seems to be a common trait. And we've just had our national awards program in November, a conference for a day followed by an awards evening. And some of the stats that I read afterwards, we've got a disproportionate amount of females within our business, believe it or not. So they obviously make the best managers, the best project managers, the best creative people who are able to operate a franchise. So I'm really pleased, because in our industry it would historically be male dominated. But FASTSIGNS, certainly in the UK, we book that trend. A lot of our outside sales professionals are females, so probably go back to the skill set there. Maybe the soft skills and the management side is more easily demonstrable within a female. Who knows?
Yeah, well, look, it's fantastic. It's really important, again, if you're listening to this, to know that doesn't matter what background necessarily you come from, that if you've got some of those characteristics, and it's really good to understand that, you know, that you've got a really diverse selection of people. You know, do you have a good mix of ages? You know, I'm always keen to bring younger people into the industry. You know, or do you find it's a sort of typical around the sort of the middle part of somebody's life?
Well, if any of my current network are listening to this chat, they'll smile at this. But when I joined the business 10 years ago, we'd been going in the UK probably nearly 30 years, and we had an aging network. So some of our franchisees were happy enough and satisfied enough to renew their agreement. It's a 10-year agreement. You can renew it as many times as you like. And so I've got people who are on their third agreement, and they're fantastic franchisees, very happy, etc. But as the age profile increases, obviously you've got to think about exits and resale. And we do have a lot of family-based teams, so father and son, mothers and daughters within the network. So that provides a continuation and a legacy. But what I'm really pleased is, during my time, over a third of the network, probably nearing 45% of the network, has been resold, and it's been resold to a younger generation. So I think our youngest franchisee today is probably 24, 25. Our oldest franchisee probably wouldn't want me to say their age, but let's just say they're well into their 70s, and they're hoping that their son takes the business from them so that they can retire, probably not into the sunset, because they want to keep a hand on the tiller. But that's kind of the age profile. I would say franchising tends to attract people at different crossroads in their career development. So you do get some people who've worked in a corporate environment for a period, and you know that can get, you might hit a buffer, or you might have an opportunity for some form of redundancy. And you think, okay, I want to be in business for myself, but I don't want to do it on my own. I want the support of something else. So we've probably got a good strata, some young, some in the middle range who've had a bit of a career, and then some people who've been with the business, you know, nearly 30 years and are still going strong.
Fantastic. Let's have a look. I mean, you've spoken there about, you know, franchising being that model to grow the business. Why do you think franchising in particular has been so successful in growing, you know, a wonderful business, and that you support each other rather than growing that in the other traditional methods that you might?
It's entirely down to the quality of the franchisee. My number one franchisee this year, we just presented the awards to them. It's a husband and wife couple. I would argue that if they went to take a coffee franchise, if they went to take a garden maintenance franchise, or they went to take a domiciliary care business, they would probably be number one in that network. They've got the drive, they've got the ambition, they understand that there's a model to follow, but you can put your own personality and wrap your own skills around it. So it tends to be on the individuals. So franchising is it's such an important requirement to be successful, that you attract the right quality of individual and then leave it to them to apply the model in that area. I can tell you why in the early days we franchised. It was because we probably didn't have the capital to open our own outlets all over the country. So we thought, if we bring an individual in, they're a shareholder effectively, they've got a stake in the business. You don't have to worry that the location is going to be operated in the correct way, because they're the responsible human being. They will open up every day. They will treat the staff correctly. And it can be a great partnership when done harmoniously and when done where two parties benefit. The franchisee has to be profitable. You can't be satisfied. I could be Mother Teresa sat here running a network, and everyone would hate me if they didn't make profit. So your business has got to be profitable. But if you're profitable and you support franchisees in the right way, then you've got the foundations of having a pretty solid network, I would suggest.
Absolutely. And it's fantastic to hear how important people are in your business, whether that's your franchisees or whether that's your customers that are using those services. You know, it's clear that people are key to your business, you know, and it's lovely to hear that you have awards, you know, celebrating people's success is such an important part of that journey, isn't it? And you know, to have that awards and a conference and people to get together for that support, brilliant.
Well, you do find us at the time of year where we've just been presented by the awards, so I'm not some form of sycophant, Harvey. I don't carry the awards around with me and show them off all the time. But as you know, sort of October, November, early December is the awards season, and excuse me, we retained the Franchise Satisfaction Award this year, and we achieved the Continuous Improvement Award also in that satisfaction arena. We got our highest score of franchise satisfaction, and whilst I like to think I'm a nice guy, my team is probably the best it's been. We've got some really high quality, dedicated individuals. Again, back to the people part, you know, I can't do my role. I can't have happy franchisees who are supported without a fantastic team of people. But a lot of that satisfaction comes down from the business model and it being profitable, because they've got important people in their life. Franchisees, they want to look after their family. Back to my days of being a franchisor and a franchisee, I tend to try and run FASTSIGNS, applying the model, which is fixed and established and works well. But I tend to try and do it as if I was the franchisee. What would I want? When a franchisee rings me, they generally need something. If we consult with them, we have a very open dialogue. If they tell us something's missing, we go out there and we get it for them, because we're there to make their lives better. If their lives are better, they'll make more revenue for their business, and that will make us more successful by association.
That's really interesting to have that you have the mindset of a franchisee, you know, even as a franchisor. And I think it's really important, because you put yourself in that mindset, even though you're running the business and so on, but you put yourself in that mindset. You really understand and empathize when something is presented to you from the franchisee network.
Well, I don't advise somebody to do something that I can't do myself. We run a national accounts program in our business, so I have to go out and visit customers. I have to listen to their requirements. I'm very lucky that I can take a load of notes and pass it to people that actually know what they're doing, being our franchisees. But I put myself in the front line with the customers, understand their needs, liaise with the experts. And I don't know how you would run a business if you are not on the front line with them, understanding what they do. We don't make signs in my business in Stafford, in our support business. We don't do any signage whatsoever, but we know how to do it. We know the challenges, and we're very lucky that within our global business, we've got experts in those fields. So I just consult someone who knows what they're doing, get the right advice, get the right support, and pass it on to our experts who are the franchisees.
Fantastic. I think we've touched a little bit on the type of people that are in your organization. But if you are a potential franchisee listening to this and you're looking at getting in touch, I think it's always really interesting to understand what that journey might look like. So from the point you make that phone call to starting your business, what does that journey look like with FASTSIGNS?
So I would say that it's an individual's discovery journey. So the person who makes the first contact with our business, maybe they receive some form of marketing communication, or they stumble across us as an exhibition. It's their discovery journey. So we have a process which we will take them through, but it can be done at any pace. At any point, they might say, do you know what, I've discovered something that isn't quite right for me. And we're happy with that. You know, we want it to be a mutual fit for them as well as us. So they would respond to something, they would make contact. One of my colleagues would have a conversation with them and answer any questions that they got, give them some sort of high level information, tell them what we do and how we do it, and a little bit about our business. And if there was enough interest there, their details are generally loaded into an intranet portal, so they can access some information. If they digest the information and they'd like more, they can request it. So it's kind of an automated process. We try and stay in contact with them at regular intervals. So if they've read all of our information, we would generally reach out to them and say, do you want to have another chat? But ultimately, we try and get the individual to come and visit us at our offices in Staffordshire for a discovery day presentation. It's an individual thing. I only do them on a one-on-one basis because a lot of people have questions that are only dedicated and relevant to them. So 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, depending on how many questions there are, tell them everything they need to know about our business. And then if they're interested, we say, look, we've got a whole network out there. You pick 2 or 3 locations that you'd like to go and visit that work for you. We'll contact the franchisees and make the appointments for you, but you go and visit them and go and have a chat with the franchisees on their own. And after those visits, they'll probably ask questions like, you know, that guy, John Davies, you know, he's told me this. Is that correct? And, you know, is he really as abrasive as he comes across? And he tells me all of this about the support network. Is that true? That's the conversations we want them to have with franchisees. And after they've had that, if they come back to us and they say, look, this sounds like it could be something that fits my needs, my family's needs, we then start getting into a bit more detail. So we would put some projections together. We would do a bit of modeling. We'd share information on costs involved. We look at financing options. Ultimately, the final stages of the process are for them to have a sort of face-to-face call. It's a video call, but an in-person call with one of my American colleagues, just so that you're joining an American franchise. So it's important, I think, that you hear an American voice. Again, that person can ask any questions that they might have niggling away in the background. And then if all that goes well, if there's still a mutual, we'd like to do business with you and you'd like to do business with us, we move forward, we grant a franchise, then our support really kicks in. So we help that person find the location, we help them build the center, we help them recruit the staff, we train them. So that person would be required to go to Dallas for a week of training. Prior to that, they'd have done a week of online training. When they come back in their center, they probably do a month of handheld training with their staff. And the sooner we can get sales on the board, you know, our support journey takes the next phase, which is whatever their needs are from then, we could tailor the support package around them. It could be they're too busy, they need to recruit more staff. It could be they've got projects that are above their early stage capabilities. So we put them in contact with the right sort of technical experts with either within our network or within the business. And then, yeah, hopefully if they've been really successful, at the end of the year, we hand them some form of award to recognise their achievements. That's a 365 day for you there, Harvey.
Well, that's fantastic to hear what that journey looks like for a prospect. You know, somebody listening today would really appreciate and want to understand what would happen when they make that first call? And you've described that beautifully. If you have just joined us today, this is Franchising Brand Stories, and today we are talking to John Davies of FASTSIGNS. It's been a fantastic story so far. If you have just joined us, scan the QR code top left, and that will take you to a replay of today's episode. And if you happen to catch a snippet in the distant future, again, scan that QR code and it will take you to this episode. I think it's going to be a good thing to do.
Harvey, can I just interrupt? I've seen a comment from a gentleman called Mike Fitton there,
yes.
and he draws attention to like myself, and he says he was poacher come gamekeeper. I was poacher and gamekeeper at the same time. And what I did want to say here is, remember, it is a partnership. Whereas the poacher is trying to steal from the gamekeeper, that absolutely isn't the case, I believe, in a happy franchise or franchisee relationship. I would kind of point out to a franchisee, look, I know all of the pitfalls, I know all of the workarounds, I know all of the things you can do, but we've entered into a partnership. We better do it in the correct way. We better hold our end of the bargain up. You better hold your end of the bargain up, and then our relationship will stay very, very, very harmonious. So I do smile, because there were some times when I was a franchisee and a franchisor at the same time. You wonder whether you're going mad. You know, you ask yourself a question, you turn the other way and say, no, you can't have it. But that's not how a harmonious franchising relationship works. It's very consultative. We both learn. We both learn why we need to do things a certain way. So I view it as a partnership. And when it's not a partnership, I can't see how you wouldn't want to skip to work every day if you weren't in some form of harmonious partnership with the people that you do business with.
Absolutely. And Mike, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, and thanks very much for your comment. What I'd like to do now is try and get into what a day in the life of a franchisee might look like. And one of the reasons I want to ask this question is, again, if you're a potential franchisee looking, you might have different priorities. You might, work-life balance, we can also talk about here. But what does that day look like typically for, you've gone through that process and you're now a franchisee, you get up in the morning, what does it look like? Can you work your life into your franchise business?
Well, we are a Monday to Friday, 8 till 5 operation. So we're a B2B franchise. We deal with professional clientele. Generally, first thing that happens in a centre in a morning is we have something which we call a work start meeting. So it's where the franchisee will meet with their production team, the designers, salespeople, installation team, just to say, what is the work in progress that we have currently on the table? Where are the projects that we are currently working on? What deadlines do we need to meet? What obstacles are in the way? What challenges do we have? So that everybody kind of knows exactly where the business is right at the beginning of the day. It's an essential part of our model. And about 99%, 98% of the network, I believe, carry host work start meetings at the beginning of every day. The departments then go down their individual routes, and a franchisee would assist anywhere that was required. So if there was some marketing to do or proactive outbound telephone calls, they might get involved in that. They might assist in production a little bit. They might work with the designers on some challenges that they've got, bounce some ideas around. Generally, at some point in the day, there's administration to do as a sort of an owner, a managing director of a business. You would be required to do. I would say probably mid-morning, there would be clients to go and visit. So we have dedicated salespeople within our business who are going out there and developing leads and sales inquiries and turning them into meetings and then hopefully sales. So a franchisee may well join their salesperson or go on sales calls and meet clients come back to the business, and that then becomes a requirement for a quotation or an order. Would be a check-in again with the team. Proactive outbound activity is very important. So there's marketing to make sure that it's being done. There's social media to manage and make sure that all of our feeds and updates are fully up to date. I think then by the end of the day, you probably want to take stock, a little bit of a preparation for next day's work start meeting. So every day will likely be different. Bear in mind, FASTSIGNS lays on a lot of training courses, a lot of peer-to-peer learning opportunities. So you might be attending a board group meeting to meet with other franchisees. You might have suppliers visit you during the day, trying to update you or sell you new products and services. So you can get quite a bit of variety throughout the week. But I would say for a franchisee, the essential part is make sure your team are doing what you're doing, have an element of business administration, do some proactive work, and then probably the final part, which is the thinking about your next day, is working on your business, not in your business. So where are the challenges? What do I need to plan for? Where are the pinch points within the team?
Get it. Can this be a management style franchise? So or do you have to be in the business, on a sort of a daily basis?
You definitely. So it is a management franchise. So you surround yourself with a team of people. But if you can imagine, Harvey, on day one, you've got to get the train moving. You need a pipeline of inquiries coming in. You need an outbound production flow. So I would say, whilst you are establishing yourself, it's a little bit more going around different disciplines and different departments within the business and helping out. Ultimately, once you've got a team of people in place, functioning, well-trained, and doing what they're supposed to do, it is 100% a management franchise. I wouldn't anticipate that many of my franchisees actually make signs. I would imagine, well, I know that a lot of them do visit important clients, but they generally recruit teams and have colleagues who do the day-to-day, and they are required there to manage either remotely, because all of our systems now are online. You are able to work remotely, but we are a manufacturing business. So we're a sales and marketing focused business that happens to manufacture. So we generally go into the center most days just to make sure that the team is well motivated and well directed.
Fantastic. We've had a couple of people saying that things are buffering today. My advice is to come off of LinkedIn and then come back in again, see if that helps. Perhaps, Simon Wise, you could let us know what experience you're having. It's also available on YouTube as well. If you're watching on LinkedIn, it may be an issue there, so perhaps check it out on YouTube. I'm going to bring up a comment here from Simon. Simon has put, what support infrastructure is in place for franchisees? I'm going to pick up, John, on something that you said just now that intrigued me, actually. You mentioned it's a proactive business, sales and marketing business, and you said that you had salespeople in the business that help get leads. So is that sort of corporate head office salespeople that are proactively getting leads for franchisees? Is that how that's working?
No. So there's two aspects to the sales function within our business. So a franchisee, one of their members of their team would be a salesperson. So they might handle inbound inquiries, and we do generate quite a number of inbound inquiries centrally. So that's part of my team's function, to look after the pay-per-click, to look after, optimize the SEO, to send out comprehensive marketing campaigns to key customers and key market sectors to try and generate interest and generate the inbound leads. But our salespeople are required to join networking groups, to register with chambers of commerce, to make contact with what we call warm leads. So people that we know that require our products and service, that buy our solutions. So you would make an outbound reach to that type of person to introduce the company, to introduce themselves, and then they would actually go out and try and meet those people. So that's the outbound sales reach that a salesperson would have. And where I would expect the franchisee to get involved in is certainly networking. So a separate networking group for business introductions and for other people to help you, letting you know where opportunities are. But then also franchisees would go and meet key clients. If you've got a large client with complex needs who spends a decent value of money with you, it is certainly worthwhile the franchisee getting involved in establishing that relationship and turning that into a customer.
Oh, fantastic.
So sorry, Simon, there was one other thing I want to say. So
Please.
When I joined the business nearly 10 years ago, I realized that my franchisees didn't have the best sales management experience. So FASTSIGNS lays on courses once or twice a year to train our franchisees in sales management, but we also form a network group for our salespeople. So currently within the network, I think we have 19, and we call them outside salespeople, proactive salespeople. We meet with them once a month on a conference call. We meet with them in person once a quarter, and we meet with them at a sales summit annually. So it's salespeople sharing best practice with each other. We're helping them with challenges that they may have. We're training them. We're trying to motivate them. So we help franchisees to manage those salespeople, and we educate and train those salespeople to be effective in their role. Because a lot of people in all walks of business, not just franchising, they'll hire somebody and then they'll fold their arms and say, right, you're a salesperson, go and make me loads of money. But it doesn't work that way. It's a member of a team. The team needs all the skills. They need all the support. But what they've got, Simon, is they've got the ability to be forward facing with customers and to represent your business effectively. So important part of the team that should be nurtured and given the maximum opportunity, the best platform to go and be successful.
Fantastic. We've just had a comment here from Simon to say that we are loud and proud on YouTube Live. Simon, could you do me a favor, put in on the comments a link to the YouTube so that Mike and anybody else listening can listen live? That would be fantastic if you could. If you have just joined us today, this is Franchising Brand Stories, brought to you by FranRec, the specialist staff and executive recruiters to the UK franchise industry. And today we are hearing and have heard the story of FASTSIGNS with the wonderful John Davies. I'd like to ask you a question. You've got a big network of individuals, and franchising always has the ability to change lives, and also you find lots of characters. And I'm sure you've got plenty of life-changing stories and how franchising has affected people's lives for the better. But are there any that sort of stick out in your mind particularly?
Yeah, one is very at the forefront of my mind at the moment, and that's mostly because this husband and wife team were actually our #1 franchise in the UK network in 2024. They achieved well in excess of £1 million worth of sales. They had something like a 40% growth year on year. And it's a really interesting story because it's an Australian gentleman who was an investment banker working overseas, a German wife who came to the UK and was a garden designer, landscape garden designer. They came together and both of them stopped their careers and they went around looking for a franchise that they could both do. You can imagine the skills of an investment banker and you can imagine the design and creativity of a landscape garden designer. So they had to find a business that they could both work within. They've been in my network, in the FASTSIGNS network for 15 years. They have got a wonderful team of people that they've recruited along the years. They've had children together. So the mother of the business and the female business partner, she wraps her day-to-day activities around taking children to school and collecting them. So there's a heck of a lot of flexibility there. the lady would probably say she doesn't want to work with the husband for 8-9 hours a day. That would probably be not too positive on their relationship. They're both very, very colourful characters, and you know, I love them dearly. But to see the success that they've had coming to the UK together, starting from zero over 15 years, building a business, building a fantastic team of people, and ultimately being the #1 franchise in the UK. And just to see the delight on their face at our recent awards do. And yeah, they let's say that the Germans and the Australians can certainly rival the UK citizens for partying and celebrating success. So that's definitely a life story that's at the forefront of my mind and resonates.
Fantastic. I've just put the YouTube link for the people that are here with us live today. Click on that and we should be all good to go. It must be a LinkedIn issue for the buffering. Well, we are coming towards a fantastic story. And this is the part where we have a little delve now into the future. And this is the part, John, where you give us the franchising brand stories exclusive. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to save this one up for us, really. So what we're going to look at now is what's happening in the future for FASTSIGNS, what exciting things are coming up that we've got to look forward to and we can look out for in the future.
Well, I'm really excited at the moment, but I'm going to show my lack of appreciation of technology, my lack of technical ability, because for about 3 years, 2.5 years, FASTSIGNS has had its own proprietary owned AI system. So it was launched 2.5 years ago. We own all of the information. It's a closed user group, 774 locations worth of users are all feeding in information into this AI system, and it's learning all the time. And I never cease to be amazed, I never cease to embarrass myself when I go and show somebody what the AI system can do, and they look at me as if to say, "Are you still pushing like driving around in a horse and cart?" You know, that's absolutely not what AI can do. It can do significantly more than that. But I'm really beginning to see now people embracing this technology. They aren't seeing it as a job threat. They're seeing it as something that can make their lives a lot simpler, can save them a heck of a lot of time, and can actually help them to be more effective in their role. And as I say, I'm a little bit embarrassed, Harvey, but any example that I give you, it doesn't do justice to the system. But
I'm the same. I'm the same. But
we play a game internally now, though. When I receive something from somebody, I have to try and work out whether it's their work or whether it's been generated by AI. I mean, we can ask it to design. We can ask it to make presentations. We can ask it to assess data. We can ask it to book hotels. We can ask it to tell us the best way to do this. We can ask it to take the latest budget from the Labour Party, which is probably a 288-page document. We can say, scan that and give us a summary on 1 page of what we need to know as a business owner. And it does all of that for you. But I say those examples are probably the tip of the iceberg. So we're putting a great effort in the UK, in my team, but also globally, in how can we harness this technology? How can we make it work better for us? How can we take cost out of businesses? How can we speed processes up? So AI certainly is going to be massively prevalent within our business. The other thing I would say is we're moving into new areas. So if you think about interior design, you wouldn't necessarily think FASTSIGNS got involved in interior design, but an office refurb, a kitchen makeover, all of that can be done by applying a substrate which has some form of imagery printed onto it and wrapped around surfaces. So if your kitchen's white at home, for example, and you'd like it to have leopard print on it, we can do that for you. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not sure it'll enhance the value of your house or anything, but it's those sorts of technologies, interior development, making environments that people work in more motivational, better for their health, better for collaboration, more inspirational. It's those sorts of projects that we're getting involved in. We see it massively in education. So people out there that have got children, your children go to school, it's not only the teachers and the teaching assistants and the textbooks and the computers which are educating young people nowadays. It's what's on their walls, what's on their floors, directional, motivational messaging. So yeah, really exciting times, I think, for FASTSIGNS. There's just two little areas that I see us growing into massively in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting, as Simon's put up there on the screen, to hear you talking about the use of AI and carefully used. It's an incredible tool. And that's exactly what it is. It's a tool. And, you know, you mentioned there that it was a closed group. So in other words, the AI system is calling upon a bank of knowledge that you have put together. And I think that's a very important thing to note. But it used well. You know, everyone's worried about it. We were never, you know, we're not worried about sort of autocorrect and spell check. It's a tool that guides us. And if we use AI to create a framework, I mean, somebody I know is Penny Hopkinson, who writes ops manuals. And, you know, that's a great example. You put your ops manual in as the closed group, then it's calling upon something that you've written. But look, fantastic and exciting stuff coming up. Well, we have reached the end of today's program, and before we talk about what's happening next week, perhaps you could leave us with a few final thoughts for anybody who's joined us here live today, and anybody, of course, who's going to watch this in the future.
Well, Harvey, firstly, I'd like to thank you and Simon for the opportunity to have this chat. It's the first time I've done anything of this nature. As I said, I'm a bit of a technophobe, but I'm trying to change that as we go forward. Always looking to learn new skills and sharpen the saw, as they say. So thank you for this fantastic opportunity. I am going to mention this to as many people as I can going forward, because I do think you provide a really worthwhile and valuable platform, not only to people like me who want to tell prospective people out there about what I do, but also it's nice that people take an interest in people's individual journeys, in companies' histories, and where they're going. So thanks very much indeed to you guys. And although you probably won't have me back because I've caused buffering on LinkedIn, that's probably just me repeating myself. It's nothing to do with LinkedIn, but
no, always welcome back.
So that's one. And just to say, I've really, really enjoyed it. And I hopefully somebody out there has got something out of it. And yeah, maybe they'll get in touch soon.
Fantastic. Absolutely. And it's been a fascinating story to hear. And thank you, John, for your time today. And I'd also like to thank everybody who's been with us today. Thank you for bearing with any buffering issues we had. Do check out the comment that Simon put in the chat there, because it will take you to the replay. And, you know, please catch the replay. And if you've got any questions, put them in there, because we can still answer them in the future. So let's have a look at what we've got coming up next week. So on our sister show, the Franchise Show, we are going to be discussing franchise laziness, or hopefully lack of it, with the wonderful Andrew Walters. And that's going to be Tuesday, 3rd of December, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And next week on Franchising Brand Stories, that's Thursday, 5th of December, 5:15 GMT, we are going to be talking to Sophie Atkinson, and we're going to be finding out what's under the hat of AutoSmart. So I'm going to have to probably clean my car for that one. But I'm looking forward to both of those. Please join us for those live, catch the replays. And until next time, thank you for joining us and take very good care. Cheerio.